As we explore what's been going down in these Epstein files, we've been talking about this ranch in Santa Fe County in the city of Stanley, New Mexico, the Zorro Ranch, as it was called, that Epstein purchased in 1993. It was sold in 2023 from Epstein's estate. We now know who it was sold to, an individual by the name of Don Huffines, a MAGA Republican former state senator in Texas who purchased this ranch for about 12.5 or $13 million. He's running for comptroller right now in Texas. He describes himself as a successful businessman, fifth generation Texan, MAGA Republican. His great grandfather started an automobile business in the 1920s. His son, Russell Huffines, works in the Trump regime right now as the White House Office of Cabinet Affairs, Associate Director of Agency Outreach. Anyway, this was the MAGA Republican family that purchased this property in an auction after it was taken from the Epstein estate. They got the New Mexico appraisal of this thing down from $27 million to 12.5 or $13 million, citing the history of it. So they kind of knew what they were buying. Their spokesperson, their family spokesperson, says that they're now willing to be cooperative with any investigations into this property, but did not state the reason that they would purchase this property, knowing the history of it. And clearly the discount from $27 million to about $13 million at this auction reflected that they knew something was up. There's big news, though, out of New Mexico since our last report on this Zorro Ranch property. The New Mexico legislature unanimously has approved a comprehensive probe of Epstein's Zorro Ranch. It's now called the St. Raphael LLC ranch or something like that, since it was acquired by the Huffines. It's no longer called the Zorro Ranch. As I mentioned, it's unanimously approved. The investigation, the legislative investigation and inquiry officially starts today, now that it's been approved. Some points I want to mention, just about who this Don Huffines guy is, who's running for state comptroller in Texas. When he was a state senator in Texas, he met with Russian officials in Moscow. This was widely reported because, what the hell were you doing meeting in Moscow in 2018? And as I mentioned, his son works in the Trump regime right now. What's notable about this New Mexico ranch is it was never searched by the FBI. If you look at, here's December 20th, 2019 email from prosecutors. This was after Epstein allegedly died by suicide, and they were describing, future investigatory steps. Here's what they write in messages internally. This is from the DOJ and FBI. We're not yet exactly sure what our ability is to provide the trustees what is effectively discovery in a now defunct criminal case against Epstein himself. That say, I can convey that we did produce the defense counsel detailed search warrant returns in connection with the New York property. Perhaps you would be able to obtain those from Epstein's criminal defense counsel. In particular, I believe you're looking for would be found at so-and-so Bates numbers. Then it goes on to say, we will also review the status of the search warrant return with respect to the island property, and we have not searched the New Mexico property, and I hope this is useful in the interim. So we know it was not searched then. And then if you look at additional emails in September of 2019, why wasn't it searched? Here's messages from DOJ lawyers to each other, talking about as a preview in response to such and such email, we spoke with New Mexico's Attorney General office back in July 2019. In essence, they agreed to cease any investigation into sex trafficking and share whatever they had gathered to date regarding sex trafficking activity with our office. We agreed that they were free to proceed with whatever other investigation unrelated to sex trafficking that they may have concerning Epstein, and told them at the conclusion of our case, we would pass along any information we may have gathered about state crimes that were committed in their jurisdiction. We have not communicated with anyone from the New York AG's office since that conversation. So the feds were saying, this is our territory, New Mexico, stay out of it, as it relates to sex trafficking, but then nothing was done at the New Mexico ranch. There was this email, September 30th, 2009. Let me repeat that. September 30th, 2009. Here's what an email said internally. This is in the Epstein files. Some interesting facts that should be passed on to the investigative agent on the Epstein case. I will also copy Director Mueller. Zorro Trust belonging to Epstein won an 80 million lottery ticket in New Mexico. That's actually not true, but Zorro Trust did win an 80 million lottery ticket or somewhere in that range in Oklahoma, which is interesting. Zorro Ranch belonging to Epstein sits close to the U.S.-Mexican border where most trafficked children are routed prior to being dispersed to the East Coast. Several high-ranking officials and friends of Epstein have confirmed that he had sexual relations with trafficked underage minors. Both Ghislaine Maxwell and Redacted were served last week. The key witnesses in Epstein's camp. And so there's a lot of information about this ranch. There's this report from the FBI, February 13th, 2007, with the house managers. They started talking about massages that were ordered at the ranch and people coming in and out. And then during this interview, here's what it says at the end. It says, upon arriving to the office after some of this information about masseuses and people coming in and greeting so-and-so, the people, the house managers, received a phone call from the, quote, main office that told them we were no longer allowed to speak with us. That interview was then immediately ended. And there's other information in the files like this. And again, there's a lot in this file. So whether these are just allegations or not, what we know is that none of this stuff seems to have been investigated. A tip, November 21, 2019. This is time sensitive, so it will be the first and last email. Depending on your discretion, you can choose to take it or trash it, but it comes from a person that has been there and seen it all as a former staff at Zorro. The material below was taken from Jeffrey Epstein's home as my insurance in case of future litigation against Epstein. Sorry, no questions. What is damaging about Epstein is yet to be written. Then it goes on to say that, certain things were happening at the ranch, underage girls, threesomes, and then it references, underage girls, just horrific things over here. And so you have that message. In any event, now a truth commission has been assembled. They're going to be looking into the ranch. You've got this weird connection of the people who bought it, call themselves Trump MAGA Republicans. And, they say they're going to be cooperative now is what their new statement is. They don't explain why they bought this ranch. But, we will be following this. I want to bring in Sam Bergman, who's the district attorney of Bernalilo County. That's Albuquerque, which is next to Santa Fe County. To be clear, this ranch was in Santa Fe County. But District Attorney Bergman is running for governor of New Mexico, and he's the leading candidate for governor there. So I wanted to bring you in, obviously, as the leading candidate for governor. This is an important issue to people in New Mexico. This is an important issue to people in the country. We're doing this interview, late on the evening of Monday after the news broke about this commission. So that's the data that I have right now. I want to get your take on it and what you would do as governor here.
Well, listen, you're spot on. The next governor of New Mexico needs to absolutely help in any way possible in conducting this investigation. A truth commission is so important. We got to get to the basic facts and follow the facts as far as they lead us, no matter where they lead us. It's extremely important. I can't compliment the legislature enough for this because I think it's extremely important. We've got all kinds of rumors and everything else going on, but we all know what Epstein did is so horrific and so disgusting that we have to get to the bottom of it. And as the lead prosecutor in Albuquerque, the head prosecutor in Albuquerque, and also the chairman of the Organized Crime Commission, New Mexicans deserve answers. They deserve to know what's going on in their state, what happened in the past, follow the facts, figure it out, and hold people accountable. That's what's extremely important, is we need to hold everybody accountable. And regardless of what they're doing in Washington, and regardless of whether or not they're going to hold anybody accountable or not in Washington, New Mexico, and with this recently passed legislative bill, this House resolution, they're going to have a committee that's going to lead an investigation into this. And I'm excited because I want to see what happens with this. Every New Mexican needs to know what happened here in New Mexico when it comes to Epstein.
Look, your office in Bernalillo handles all types of cases, and among the most serious cases that your office handles is investigating and prosecuting people involved in sex trafficking.
Yeah.
As I stated in my intro, and obviously the border shared with Mexico makes New Mexico ripe for sex trafficking, and as an area that's used by cartels. And one of the things, and we could talk about this later in the interview too, that as the Trump regime has focused on ICE and Border Patrol attacking kind of hardworking people, they've shifted resources away from sex trafficking investigations, and some of their top federal investigators are actually, like, in addition to their cover up of the Epstein files that we see out of DC, to me, there's a story that is also their resources of investigating sex trafficking at the feds has decreased as well as a result of all the other crap they're doing.
Yes, you're 100% right. And I will tell you that my office takes this stuff very seriously. We've had dozens and dozens of sexual assault cases go to trial in the last 12 months, dozens. And we will continue that kind of pace because unfortunately there's far too much of it going on. And I will tell you also, I'm very proud of my office because I know some people may say it's justice delayed, but we've gone back 30 years and held people accountable for rape. We just had someone who was convicted of rapes that were conducted 30 years ago, that happened 30 years ago, and we're still holding people accountable. So the statute of limitations, we're going to work through all those issues, and if this leads anywhere, we're going to hold people accountable. I think New Mexicans deserve, at the very least, an understanding of what the facts are. And then if we have the evidence to prove against someone in a court of law, we'll absolutely do it.
There was some mention, or there's something that I learned rather in my investigation here, is that one of the reasons Epstein picked New Mexico is that there was apparently a loophole where he didn't have to register as a sex offender despite pleading guilty to pedophilia, prostitution with an underage girl. It's pedophilia. That I don't like when they call it prostitution with an underage girl. It was raping an underage girl. But he was able to avoid registration. That struck me as, whatever that is, that needs to stop. Like that can't be a thing where it becomes a safe haven. Like, what do you know about that, and how does that end? Because to me, in conjunction with the Truth Commission, that's got to go.
I don't know specifically what he was referring to or what anybody else may be referring to. We do have a sex offender registry in New Mexico. We take this stuff extremely seriously. We do in my county. I think the whole state takes it very seriously. We'll hold people accountable all day long. I don't know what that garbage is that we're hearing out of that, but I really don't. It doesn't faze me. We're gonna go get to the bottom of this. What happened in New Mexico? It's too important for the survivors and the victims of this kind of BS that we have to get to the bottom of it. We will too.
As you're also hearing what's coming out of kind of Washington, D.C., and like I saw the DOJ put together their own like list of like politically exposed individuals, and they put actual people who are politically exposed. But then they put on the list like Marilyn Monroe and Elvis and Janis Joplin in order, I guess, to muddy the waters. Like, just as an observer and as someone who prosecutes these kind of crimes, throws people in prison for the rest of their lives. Just before we go, like, what's your overall perspective and just the way this is being handled out of from the Trump regime in DC?
Well, what I'm seeing back in DC and what I'm seeing in the testimony in front of Congress by our Attorney General, listen, I don't care how politically powerful you are. I don't care how politically or business strong you are or how powerful you are in the business world. Does not matter. To me, it does not matter to the people of New Mexico. We're going to hold you accountable every single time you break the law. And trafficking, children in sex trafficking. It is so disgusting, and we deal with it all the time. We absolutely, I don't care who they are. If we get to the bottom of it and the facts lead us to someone and we can prove it in a court of law, we will absolutely prosecute them every step of the way.
Sam Bergman, District Attorney, Bernalilo, anything you want to say before we head out here? I know you're running for governor, and I know this isn't anything else you want to say.
Listen, this is beyond politics. This whole issue is far beyond politics. This is a matter of right and wrong at the most basic level. When you have Epstein, who is the most horrific sex trafficker in the history of this country, and you have a DC elite trying to protect him. I'm so proud of our legislature for starting up this Truth Commission investigation. We have a ranch out there that we don't know exactly what happened. We're going to get to the bottom of it, though. We're going to find out what happened. And if we have the evidence, we're absolutely going to hold people accountable.
Sam Bergman, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers. Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.